All right, tonight we are pleased to bring you Sarah Bartok with a program called Flashbacks of Alien Encounters. Sean will be talking to us tonight about his family's numerous experiences with aliens and the paranormal. In 1984, he took photos of strange tracks in the snow near his house and will share them with us, along with his analysis of them, which is that the photos show alien and human footprints at the center of the circles. His detailed photographs are presented as evidence of one of his abductions and are featured in his book, Flashbacks, an artist's memoir of alien abductions, native spirits, and enlightenment. And I believe that book is here tonight for sale in the back of the room. Due to concern for his career and the privacy of his children, Sean and his wife have kept their experiences to themselves for over 30 years, but now have come forward to share their story. Let's welcome Sarah Bartok.
Tonight, as Eric mentioned, we took these photographs of circles in the snow outside our home in 1984. And what I'd like to do tonight is to race from 1980, when we first moved to our property, and get us up to 1984. I'm going to try to get to about here, and that's kind of what book one does. Into the night. Okay, we're here. So this is Friday night, January 15th, 1984. Everybody's home from school. We're all laying around, kind of resting up. Everybody goes to sleep. About 9 o'clock, I stick my head out the door because I'm the only one alive or awake. The dogs are sleeping, the children are, Sarah is. Stick my head out the door, and it's snowing lightly. It's almost the end of the snow, but it's really cold outside. The snow is just flitting through the air, and that's a sign of cold weather in Colorado, when the snow is super dry and small. So I think everybody's asleep. I think I'll just take the Bronco and drive it up and down the driveway to keep it open in case it starts blowing real hard and drifting. So that was my plan, and I put on my snowsuit, my moon boots, grab a beer, go out to the Bronco to start it up, and start doing this driving business. So I'm right about here, and I'm going to drive down here and back and forth, back and forth. It's kind of break the monotony and get something done at the same time, and you can drink and drive. So anyway, so I get out. The Bronco has a brand new battery. It won't start for some crazy reason. It just won't start. So I try and check all the lines out, but nothing will do. So I think I'll just walk down to the studio and work, because I'm wide awake by now. It's colder than hell out, and nobody's awake, and it's boring. So I go down to the studio. Well, I don't remember getting there, and I don't remember coming back. Sarah doesn't remember coming to bed. Normally, when I do come to bed late at night, I always wake her up, let her know I'm there. But on this night, I didn't. I wake up the next morning, and I'm sicker than I've ever been in my life. And besides that, I've got this horrible shooting pain in my wrist. And I look at that, and there's this welt there. And I can't figure out how I got it. Because the only way I could think about getting it would be if I fell into the wood-burning stove that we have upstairs and burned myself maybe on the flue pipe or something. But other than that, there's no other way I could have been hurt. So I'm convalescing Saturday morning. There's this welt. I don't know if you can see these teeth marks or these marks here. This thing really hurt. I mean, it was awful, painful. I have a high pain threshold, I think, but this hurt. And it's kind of right over, there's an artery running in there someplace. And when I was 9, somebody poked me in the foot with something, and I was frozen in my sleep. And because I was so frightened by this thing that evidently came through the window, so I thought, well, maybe they put something in my toe when I'm like 9 years old, and they're taking it out now. They've sucked it out of me. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm down to a quart of blood, and that's why I'm so sick, and blah, 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 blah. Well, but this thing really hurt. And it was one of 2 bites. And several years later, I was bitten again. So I can't sleep. very well, but then I do go in and out of this kind of fitful kind of slumber. And as I do, I have this dream, or I have this flashback, and I'm in this chair and I can't move, but I'm sitting up for a change. I'm not laying down. And the chair is so big that my feet are out in front of me. It's not like, you sit there and your knees go over the edge of the chair, and I can tell that I'm not leaning up against the chair. And I'm looking at a chair in front of me that's the back of the seat, and it's a big banana-style seat that I can tell. And not being able to move my eyes much, all I can do is see the seat in front of me. It's humongous. The seat I'm sitting in is humongous. I'm like a dwarf. So, I'm kind of puzzled by that, but I'm really coming in and out of consciousness, and it's a foggy environment. It's almost like things floating around in it. And but I know in my heart I'm only supposed to look straight ahead, and I'm not supposed to move my eyes, but I've never been very good about following the rules, so I've kind of oozed my eyes a little bit around to the right because I can sense there's something around. And I see, to my dismay, a porthole. And it looks like it's maybe 10, 15 feet away. But I can't really gauge it, but it's a porthole. It's a round window. So I roll my eyes just a little bit further, and I'm surprised to see someone. Yo, there he is. I see this person. He's gigantic. His butt fits the seat for a change. Mine doesn't. And he is half animal. He looks kind of like an animal. He looks like a humanoid. But he seems to have short hair all over his face. So I think it's a he, just because that's the way humanoids are. Most women don't have facial hair, but this guy did. And I couldn't see much of him except what attracted me most was his eyes, because I just got a scintilla of a moment to look at him. He rolled his eyes around because he could evidently sense I had scoped him out a little bit. And so our eyes met, and it was obvious we weren't equals. And he gave me this kind of grin, which I didn't capture very well in the sketch, but it was an all kind of knowing grin. And about that time, I'm whacked in the side by something. I don't know what it is, but it hits my kidney, and I just look ahead because I know that's what I'm supposed to do. And then I wake up, and I can't figure that out. This really crazy flashback that I've just had. And so I just sort of go back into sleep. And so all day I'm getting, going in and out of sleep, and I'm still sick. I eat a little bit, and I throw it up. And by evening, I'm better, but nothing like what I was in the morning or the morning before when I felt great. So I finally go to sleep. The next morning, I call this Jacob's Ladder, January the 17th. We have a usual morning breakfast. Brianna gets her snowsuit on, and she goes out to feed the horses, which are to the east of us. And she no sooner gets out the door than she comes back and says, Daddy, there's some strange tracks out in the yard. And we'd had a little bit of snow that night, and there had been snow on the ground prior to that. And so, I got all excited because I knew she knew all the animals that in the area, because she was a real nature person. And so I knew something was different. And so we stepped out and got the dogs in, and to keep them from doing anything to the tracks. Went outside, and so we saw this. And this was really, it was like a shrine for me, because after 3 years of nothing but all these crazy things happening, and you have no evidence other than, things are missing that used to be on you, things that, like, you have welts on your legs, you have dimples in your forehead, or they're going to be happening, you have, birthmarks that are gone and the like. So, but that's circumstantial. So this was concrete, because I could see it looked like two sets of footprints, one large, one small. That was interesting. And so that one drew me closer. I went up to it, and I just had to sense or feel it, see what the hell it was. And so I went up and photographed that. I could tell that the rotation, or it seemed like there was something going around in a circle. and I could see the snow had fluffed over in places as I went around in the deeper areas, and in the shallower areas it left a little wedge. And I wanted to see how wide the track was, and I could tell it went in a clockwise direction. And then there was some kind of fluffy snow here that puffed up, looked like it had been blown up. And so that was, interesting. I measured the width of it. It was about 8 inches in diameter, but in terms of the track itself. But that varied depending on the depth of the snow and the lay of the land, because it wasn't like a flat plane. It kind of angled off. The snow depths changed somewhat. So I checked that out in terms of, just how wide the track was. And so I think it came out to 8 inches. I'd have to check the book. So then we wanted to see, how wide it was. First of all, I tried a 36-inch ruler, and of course that didn't work. So we got a rope from the barn and stretched it across here, which marked it up. And you can see its track there. So it was 7 foot 3 inches inside to inside across the thing. So that's pretty small. So if you're expecting, crop circles, this isn't it. These guys are reductionists. They're designers, they're reductionists. They take something complicated and they break it down to something really simple. So then I could see, here's the track, it looks like a footprint, here's a footprint, this looks like a footprint, this is bigger than this, and so, then you want to measure those. Then I get closer, and and the real problem with this is you wait all these years, you hope for some kind of evidence, and now you got it, it's in the snow, and it's going to be gone. It's going to melt, and so you really can't make a print of it. You can't do maybe plaster casts. This is it. It's going to go away. So I get a little closer, and sure, I can see this, and then I see this, and then I see some grass coming through here, and I see grass coming through here, and I know that there must have been some warmth involved in this, and so this is another overlay, and I'm thinking, well, this foot must have come this way, and for some reason drug through the snow this way, and maybe this one did this, and as it went out, because there's only one track outside the circle, or one footprint outside the circle, and I'll show you that in a minute. So, it's still a real conundrum, but I see a footprint here, I see one here, and I see what looks like a footprint here, but it's riding up above the snow. So I get a little closer. Well, I think about, okay. So then I'm thinking, how did these people get out of the circle? So with this one footprint right here, I figured that the person who was one of the small ones, that he lifted this person up that didn't move. These all moved around a lot, but this set didn't. So I figured it lifted it up, had maybe an accomplice that lifted too, and at the same time leveraged itself out of the circle, and we just flew to our bedroom. So that was the only thing I could think of, and it would be something like this, the mechanics of it. And this took a lot of thought, but any kind of tracker can kind of recreate the situation. So that became, as it was, the cover to the book. And I figured that whoever was here didn't move at all, as you'll see here in a little bit, didn't move at all. When they were lifted up, their feet dropped down, and so as they dropped down, then they became longer. And at the same time, as they moved out, they were elevated up, and so that's what left that strange track that got pointed at the end, because as you go out of it and you go up, and your feet are dragging, you're up above it, and the only thing it might be is your big toe dragging to make that pointed area. Outside the circle is this first footprint. There were no other footprints for 60 feet that matched those that were in the center of the circle. And if you notice this footprint, it looks like like a meteorite hit, because it's almost slushy. Can you see the edges of this? It's kind of poofed out. Now, that's a pretty good trick to come out of this, if you're like 3.5 feet tall, you got short legs, here's the end of this, and you have to come straight down in. It's either it's like a meteorite hitting or something warm. Perhaps the footprint was hot. Maybe the foot was hot, or the shoe was hot, or the boot was hot, because they were wearing different kinds of shoes than what I had on. This is now looking straight down into it. Here's my footprint, as I guessed. This was 10.5 inches. That's the exact size of my foot. I went out on Friday night, had missing time, woke up Saturday, I'm sick. I got, this wound on my arm or my wrist. And so I concluded that it was probably me, since my foot is the same size. So then you really start to see some anomalies. This is the center of the circle. That's 1 inch in diameter. It's melted all the way down to the grasses below and beyond, because this footprint is mine, and I'm wearing a moon boot and taking a photograph, because that's where I got as close as I could and went over like this and photographed. And 24 to 36 hours later, because we couldn't pinpoint this, it's still hot. So the ground underneath is hot from this very core. And here's my foot this is my right foot, and you can see that the print goes clear down to the grasses below. It's melted there, and that's a common thing when you got a hot something, and if you're if you have melting snow and you step on it, you go all the way to the surface below. But here at my heel, I'm up above the ground, but you can see there's some kind of transparency back here. As opposed to over here, it's not, it's not clear down to the grasses. At the same time, there was a lot of movement here. And these were the footprints of the partial footprints of the little one, and they had these boots on that were, really formed a nice edge, whereas mine don't at all. In fact, the edges of the footprint are sloping, and then they curl over. It's almost as though you were materialized right there. You're materialized so you don't have the same kind of footprint as you do over here where you step into the snow. So if you've ever seen, your footprint in the snow, you crush down through it and you leave hard edges generally, not unless you're walking very fast, or if you're sloughing your feet or whatever else, as opposed to this. These footprints did not move. These footprints did. They were moving all around. So I assumed that these were me, or these were mine. I didn't move because I was anesthetized, and then lifted up out of the circle and moved to our bedroom. So this is another photo. Footprint here. Goes all the way to the ground. Here's the center point. You can see that. And over here where the small ones were, you can see that that's also melted to the earth below, and in a greater distance away from the center than it is this way. So they might have been either hot themselves, or their feet were hot, and maybe they're androids, and they can stay warm. But here are some of the edges of their boots, which were rigid. Mine were not. So here's an overlay of those. This is the ruler. This is the stripe that comes through from measuring it. These are my moon boots here, I think. And then the patterns or the prints, other prints here. And then this is my left foot. There are all sorts of little hemispheric protrusions out of that, which couldn't figure what that was. Now, I was out wearing moon boots that night. I don't have moon boots on here. The next day, I found my ski mobile suit and the moon boots, and they were in our closet, bedroom closet. I never keep them there. And they were all folded up very nice and neat on the floor. I kept them, the moon boots on the floor of the hall closet by the door, and at the same time, the ski mobile suit was hung on a hanger in that same closet. So, that was out of place, and this, I think, some kind of booty was put on my foot, and to allow me to levitate as well, or to be materialized as, and I know you're saying, oh, materialization, Jesus, what's with him? But I really think that's what happened in order to get me there. So this is moon boot. You can see these are, they were moving around a lot, and I wasn't moving around at all. Another shot. The shadows were the only thing you could really tell what was going on here. So this is one of the smaller ones. This doesn't come down in. This is kind of fluffed away from it, like it's powder comes up around you. That'll be interesting to see what you think of that. Another diagram of that. So I had some friends come over. This is the fellow that saw the reddish white light take off above the house and go up on top of the mesa. He at one time owned a sporting goods store and took people out cross-country skiing. So he was really, well aware of what the snow was like. And he looked at the snow and he said he'd never seen anything like it in terms of the footprints and the tracks and the like. And so they were befuddled. They didn't know what it was. This is a diagram of, there were 3 prints, one close to the house, and then one next to this one. And there seemed to be a lot of movement in between these two, and then also to the kitchen area, which was around here. But this one was the only one intact. And so we found this print outside the circle, which related to this, or these, and then there was nothing up to the driveway and then to the house. And then, of course, I woke up on Saturday morning, sicker than a dog, with this wounds and all. So still a conundrum, of course. And there was a footprint. There were 2 footprints that didn't match the smaller ones. The small ones were 4.5 inches and mine was 10.5. And this particular footprint, if you can see it here, was next to the circle that was closest to the house. That measured 7.5 inches. The next one, I was thinking this was the left footprint. The right footprint we found 7 feet away. That's a pretty good trick for somebody who's got small feet, because 7.5 inches is a small foot. And then the next step is 7 feet away. So this particular individual sort of slid into this in a long way. I mean, how many people come sliding into the ground with that length of a slide and then go straight down, pick it straight back up? It's almost like a blue heron stalking someone, if you've ever seen one of them, the way they walk. So the profile of the, okay. I'm going to back up here. Okay, this is going back to the footprint that was out of the circle to just show by comparison. And here it is, and it's almost explodes, whereas the other footprint that wasn't identified, goes down and presses down into the snow. This and the snow explodes around it as though it's slush, which indicates to me that, it was hot. So those are the 2 different kinds. This is like in the afternoon, and this is the circle that was next to the house. And I'm standing there looking at it and thinking about it and contemplating it, because I don't know, what it really was, other than the fact that there's a lot of coincidental things that happened that sort of suggest that, there was an abduction. And what the circles prove is that, there was a return to the house, and that was part of the process as I see it. Now, you may have seen circles like this before. Or has anyone seen circles like this in the snow before? And I haven't either. It's not like I know it all, but I'd never seen anything like it, and neither had the UFO, the MUFON investigator, who seemed to be really knowledgeable. He had never seen anything like it either. We had not talked to anyone about, our experiences, except for the first day I went back to class. So it wasn't like there were any pranksters. I went up on top of the house and photographed up there and looked with a pair of binoculars to see if there were any car tracks or any kind of cherry pickers or anything like that that could, come up and do these kind of circles and fake them. I went then up on top of the bluff, And I looked up there and I reviewed the whole valley. I didn't see anything there. So, it wasn't like someone snuck in and did it. It's like, it's hard to fake it and walk around in the snow. You're going to leave prints. And we found none. So, it seemed to me to be a legitimate thing. And then we found like 4 years later, we had a guy out, and he had a Geiger counter. So he took a reading to the general area, and then he went to those areas, or this particular area, and it was still reading higher than the area around it. And so I don't know how long this was hot in terms of the snow. It's kind of like if I knew I was going to live this long, I had taken better care of myself. If I knew I was going to write a book, I would have investigated this a little bit more than what I did. So, long story short, there was radioactivity in the center of this, and I think probably the footprint that came out of there and the snow sloshed up, I think that was probably somehow radioactive as well. But, of course, you never know. So, I would like to read a quote here. Everything is determined, the beginning as well as the end, by forces over which we have no control. It's determined for the insect as well as for the star. Human beings, vegetables, or cosmic dust will all dance to a mysterious tone, intoned in the distance by an invisible piper. And that's Albert Einstein.